Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar sponsored by the University of St. Thomas about applying to college. We are excited to share with you information today about how we've gone test optional and how we review applications very holistically. And I am Kristen Hatfield. I'm the Director of Admissions here at the University of St. Thomas. I do want to share a few details about how today's webinar will work. First of all, as an attendee, I just want you to know that you are all automatically muted, so there is no need for you to worry about people hearing as you might be talking to family members or friends next to you. On the bottom of your screen, you will also see that there is a question and answer function on the webinar, and at that point, you can ask any of your questions and we will answer them at the end of our presentation today. So as you think of them, please feel free to drop them into that Q&A function. Someone will be monitoring them throughout our webinar today, and if we happen to not get to your question, you can know that we will get to it before tomorrow, some point in time tomorrow. We'll definitely know the answers to those. So I want to introduce our panelists or have them share their stories and talk with you a little bit more today. We'll start with our introductions. You'll get to know the panelists all a little bit, and then we will dive right into our presentations here today. So as I mentioned, my name is Kristen Hatfield. I am Director of Admissions here at the University of St. Thomas, and I am delighted to walk you through this process. I'm actually the mom of three, and fun story, I have a senior in high school this year. My very first child is heading off to college, and ironically does not have her college essay done yet, even though she started her application, a couple months ago. So I am living and breathing this exact information in my house and trying to share it with my first child too. And then I also have two sons who will be right behind her through the whole process too. So one of the things we do want you to know today is that the people you're meeting on the screen are the people that are going to be reviewing applications as they come into St. Thomas. And we are real people, and in my case, living the life that you're living right now yourself. So I will pass it off to Brian so he can introduce himself now.
Hello, my name is Brian Gates. I'm an Associate Director of First Year Recruitment. I am also a parent. I have my 5-year-old working on her college essay upstairs right now, so that she can be ready. I'm just kidding. I'm an alum. I graduated from the University of St. Thomas in 2004, originally from Omaha, Nebraska, and I've worked in enrollment ever since. And what I love about our job is, as an alum, someone helped me walk through this process, and now at work every day, I get to reciprocate that to the people that we serve. So happy to be with you here today, and looking forward to sharing some about who we are and what we do. And I'm going to pass it on to Joe Herrera to introduce himself.
Hello, everybody. I'm Joe Herrera. I am an Associate Director of Transfer Admission here at the University of St. Thomas. I've been here for a very significant amount of time. I've been here for about 20 years now. This is my second institution. I actually started my admissions career at the school I graduated my undergraduate with, the College of St. Scholastic in Duluth, Minnesota. And then I was fortunate enough to move down here to the University of St. Thomas, where I did get my master's, so I can say I'm an alumni, a proud alumni as well. I, like Kristen, am in a unique scenario where I have 3 children. My first child has gone off to college. She went to the University of Kansas. And for those of you out there that may have children that are off in college in this COVID world, I'm with you. I think about her all the time, and I pray she's doing just fine. And then I also have a senior this year in high school as well. So I'm also dealing with the college search process again. And then my youngest is 9th grade. So we're at the very beginning part of this process with him. Hopefully that experience can pay off, and we can guide him through that process successfully. So far, so good. Thanks for being here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Blair Webster. I work here as an admissions counselor. So I recruit students to the university for part of the year, and then for the best part of the year, I work on counseling them and making their college decision. So helping them answer all those nitty-gritty questions to help them best come to that decision in the spring. I'm from St. Paul, Minnesota, born and raised. I'm also an alum of St. Thomas. I did graduate 2 years ago in 2018. I had a fabulous experience here, and it's great to still work here in a professional capacity. I'm excited that you're here and excited to work with you throughout the year.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Peterson. I'm an admissions counselor here at St. Thomas as well. I work with students coming from kind of the northwest metro of the Twin Cities, as well as the Rocky Mountain region of the US. I'm originally from Lakeville, Minnesota, so about half an hour away from St. Thomas. I graduated in 2017. I studied marketing, was on the track team, part of a few different clubs and organizations. I worked 3 jobs on campus, was one of our student ambassadors. So I was really involved, absolutely loved my 4 years here. Obviously loved it so much, I couldn't leave, had to come right back and start working here. So just happy that you're with us here this evening.
All right, thanks, panelists. As you can tell, we've got a great crew here for you this afternoon. And I want to just walk through a little bit about what you can expect today. Each of us will be walking through different sections that you see on the screen, helping you understand what test optional means, holistic review. That is definitely the buzzword as we work with students right now. And so we thought we would talk to you all about what that is. And then, of course, how we review, what you can do to write your very best essay, how we review your transcript, and then, as I mentioned, we'll have time for questions. So that's what we'll be covering with you today.
All right, so just to broadly start out, we wanted to set out some definitions, both ones you're going to hear throughout the college process at every school you're looking at, because these are very big deals right now, and also what it means to St. Thomas. So what it means for us specifically, so you can kind of have an idea of what we're looking for. And then as we go through the rest of this session, we'll give you specific examples of how St. Thomas applies the philosophies of being a test optional institution and using holistic review to the work that we do and how we form our community. So test optional, this is, it's somewhere in the newspaper every weekend right now. It's what we as an admissions office have really spent the last year and a half kind of setting up for students so that we could more equitably look for students who could succeed at St. Thomas. What it means for you, or what it means broadly, is here a student can apply with or without a test. You have a choice. When you're going through your application online, one of the first questions you'll ask is whether or not you would like to include a standardized test, ACT or SAT, in your application. We don't have a preference in which one you choose, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that means. You do have a brief window also to change your mind. So I know a lot of students took a September ACT last weekend. We know there's a big one coming up in October. So we want students to be able to see how they're performing on those tests if they take them, and then choose to include that with their application or not. The reason we started this project, like I said a bit ago, the reason we chose to become a test optional institution is because we know that tests aren't always representative of a student's ability. Sometimes they are. We're not saying that the test isn't ever valuable, but we know it isn't always valuable. There are some simple facts in the research we've done. Test scores are often more correlated to a student's household income than they are their success throughout college. There's inherent bias in the standardized testing process. We don't want to prevent talented students from applying. Our mission, our founder, John Ireland, who they showed in that flashy video at the beginning, was all about improved access to higher education. And this is one option that allows us to improve access to higher education. So we give students a choice now when they apply. So that equity piece is really important to us. It's important to our growth. The other part is the world we're living in. I am currently, working from home most days with my 3 children, and it is not the same as it was. The pandemic has obviously presented some big barriers to college access that standardized tests are no exclusion. The scheduling has been very challenging. We know a lot of students haven't had the opportunity to take a test. We decided to do this a long time ago, but the timing was perfect. This is a permanent decision for St. Thomas. It is not something we're doing for this year because of the pandemic. It's something we're doing because we believe in, and it's also an added convenience for for the accessibility of the test in this awkward year. As far as aid, this is often the next question that comes up with test optional students. Will applying with a test or without affect how much money I get? No matter which way you choose to apply, you will be considered for an academic scholarship at St. Thomas. So it doesn't matter which way you choose to apply, you will be considered for our merit aid at St. Thomas. The one asterisk I would add is that there are a few competitive scholarships like departmental that may still include a test score. Those are still being worked out, but for our broad aid process, you'll be considered no matter which way you choose to apply. The last thing with test optional is, should you do it? And my first response would be, if you don't know whether you should or not, that's why you have a personalized admissions counselor. Both Chris and Blair, who are on this Zoom, are great resources. We have a counselor assigned to every high school who's just there to advise you in this way. And we've been practicing every week all summer. We get together as a group and we go through setup apps where we're talking about how we would advise these students best. That's our job, and we love doing it. So if you have questions on how to apply, don't stew about it. Call us. We'd love to walk you through and give you some advice about what you should do. Broadly, if you're trying to decide, are you satisfied with your score? Do you like it? I think most students are going to say, I'm never satisfied with my score. Our middle 50% for students who take the ACT is between a 23 and a 29. If you're anywhere in there or above, apply with a test. You're in a great spot. If you're not sure if that fits you, call your admissions counselor and we'll give you advice on how to apply, because it's going to be different for every student. But that's why we're here. We're here to help advise you through that. So don't spend too much time trying to decide. Just let us help you walk you through it. Next, I'm going to briefly talk about holistic review. It might be pretty intuitive, but this means we review applications as a whole. You, as an applicant, are not just a number. You're not just a GPA. You're not just a test score. We look at everything that you've submitted. I've never thought about our mission as an institution more than when I review apps, especially all throughout the fall. We talk about being morally responsible leaders who act wisely, work skillfully to advance the common good. Those are things that don't just come through on a transcript. So if we're really trying to form a community that looks like that, we have to spend a lot of time looking at your application and seeing what you've done in high school and if that's prepared you to take on this mission and this community when you get here. So that's what we mean. We're looking at a student's narrative, and we'll get into more detail about this in a little bit. We're looking at your experience, your contributions to the community, because our hope is whatever you've done is an example of what you plan to do when you're here with us. So that's what we're looking at when we look at holistic review. A couple other layers. We have multiple people review your application to remove bias and to also just find other details that someone might not. Like if you see an application, like if I'm reading one and it's a student from Nebraska that plays Ultimate Frisbee and was an Eagle Scout, I'm gonna go, oh, that was me, that's what I did. And then the next person review it might say, you missed this part. We're looking for all those positives that are on a student's application. And so we have multiple people review each one to make sure we're capturing it all. Yeah, that's it. You're not just a piece. We're going to look at your whole application and try and learn more about who you are through that process. Now, Kristen Hatfield is going to talk to you a little bit about our timeline and when things start going here for seniors.
One of the best pieces of advice we can give you is to make sure you're staying on track, you're staying organized, and you don't miss any deadlines. There are some pretty important deadlines. So at St. Thomas, first of all, we will take either an application that we have, that's a St. Thomas application that you can find on our website, and on the bottom of the slide deck is our specific URL to get you to that application. Or we also take the Common App, and rest assured, we do not care which one you apply with. We get that question a lot, but which one do you really prefer? And the answer is both of them. The information actually just gets put into the same format and we review them. We hardly even know if you've done the Common App or St. Thomas application. So whichever is best for you is what we would recommend. If you're applying to just St. Thomas, probably want to use just the St. Thomas application. But if you're applying to a wide variety of schools, The Common App can be a really good way to put all of your information in just once and get it sent off to a wide variety of schools. So that could be a little less time consuming for you. So that's how I would gauge which application you should actually choose to apply with. The timelines for St. Thomas, then I point to on the screen here, we have two milestones or options for where you should apply. The first is called early action, and the second is called regular decision. Early action, or EA, as we call it, essentially means that you're in the first round of students that we review. So my recommendation, especially as someone who's watching this webinar right now, is that you should intend to apply by November 1st. Early action is always a good possibility to be in that first batch. Work on your application now and get it to us by that November 1st deadline. You will then hear your admission decision and your merit scholarship information by December 15th. So that is a nice rule by which you'll know before you head into the new year. If you do regular decision, which is also a great option, it's just a little later. And basically the deadline for that is January 15th. We let students know by February 15th. And for both of them, we ask that you make a decision and send us your confirming deposit by May 1st of your senior year. If you happen to be a person who isn't sure and it ends up being later than January 15th, don't worry. We do have what we call kind of a rolling timeline after that. So if you happen to miss the January 15th deadline, you can always apply into the summer, really, depending upon what space available we might have in the class. So those are your two timelines. The next slide talks a little bit about all the different pieces that are considered with the application. This is what we're going to be talking a lot about as we dive into the rest of the webinar today. So I don't need to spend a lot of time on the first things. Obviously, it's just a really good description of all the different pieces of the application that we will take into consideration when we do that holistic review that Brian talked about. High school GPA, strength of schedule. If you choose to send test scores, we'll certainly look at them. We're going to spend a lot of time on the essay today. I do want to talk a little bit about the two last pieces on here because those are also key parts of the application. Letters of recommendation are not required, but we certainly love to review them and we'll definitely put them as part of your application. And for some students, we may recommend that it would help to tell something of their story if they had a teacher or some other important adult in their life write a letter of recommendation for them. So if you need help knowing should I or should I not submit a letter of recommendation, we would be happy to walk you through what your application might look like and give you guidance on that. But again, not required, but sometimes we do encourage it of students. The other thing I would mention, what I didn't tell you, is that my husband is a high school teacher. And if you wait until, we just talked about timelines, you wait till the very end and then hop on into your high school teacher's classroom and say, hey, could you write me a letter of recommendation? It's due tomorrow. You're gonna not get as strong of a letter of recommendation as if you give that individual, whoever it might be, a lot of time to prepare. So my best piece of advice there is please make sure you ask your recommenders early so that they have time to do a really nice job of putting together a letter of recommendation for you. The last piece, activities and involvement. There is a spot on our application and on the Common application to write down all the different things that you're involved in. And the other option is there is an opportunity, if you have a resume already put together, to just submit that with your application too. And we're looking for everything from part-time jobs that you might be doing, all the different clubs and activities you've been involved in, leadership positions that you've held. Basically, this is your chance to brag. So don't hold back. Think about everything you've done during your college or your high school experience that you might want to share with a future college, and go ahead and put that down for us. Any awards that you might have earned, all of those different pieces. And like I mentioned, if you happen to be a kind of student who isn't as involved because you've had to work a lot, let us know that. If you happen to be the kind of student who had a lot of things planned and then COVID kind of took the wind out of your sails because a lot of things were canceled, just let us know that too. All of that information, the more you share. Imagine you were sitting across the table from us and wanted to tell us these things. Go ahead and pop them into your application. That's really helpful as we review it. And now I'm going to pop it over to Blair and Chris for the fun writing a college essay. I do hope
Yes.
I was listening to this part.
I'm sure she is. Thank you, Kristen. So next, we're going to transition into talking about writing a college essay. So you all heard a little bit about the holistic review. So this will give you more context in what we're looking for, the purpose of your essay, and some helpful ideas and tips as you are writing it. So first we'll begin with the purpose. So number one, we want you to show your writing skills. So up until this point, you've been in school writing for some years now, learning citations, evaluations, arguing your point of view. So just showing that and demonstrating that is important, and showing your ability to express your knowledge, thoughts, and feelings is important. This is going to be important whether you're planning to go into STEM fields, English fields, it really doesn't matter. So it's really important to gauge that. Next, to show your personality. As Brian mentioned before, we love hearing who you are. We want to know what you're passionate about. We want to know what inspires you. So just showing your personality and being creative in that part is really important too. Next is to establish your fit for the university. We're a mission-driven university, if you haven't picked up on that. So working for the common good is something that is central to everything that we do. That can be academically, sports-wise, and especially in the admissions process as well. So we want to hear how our mission may inspire you, or how your education here will empower you to push forward our own mission. Next will be to provide context to your application. So just as it was mentioned before, we want to look at more than just your GPA and your ACT. We want to hear about maybe things that you've overcome, hurdles, triumphs, everything that you've gone through will all help us in evaluating your application.
Yeah, and with that, I just want to add one little bit there, Blair. Say that there was something that went on while you were in high school and your grades dipped for a semester. The essay is a great place to give us some context there as well. Just letting us know all the things that your application is not able to show us through like a GPA or test score, any of that. The next little bit we're going to go over is just a little bit about what an essay should cover. Really, it's just who you are. The essay should tell us things that we can't see, kind of like I just said. And so really impactful essays for me share a story that's meaningful to the student. It gives me perspective into the life that you've lived in thus far that I'm not able to see in other places. Maybe you've put on the application that you've been involved in a sport or work or something else like that. And so I'm able to see that. But if you can tell a story from those lived experiences, that allows the essay to, really just become a little, it helps the application become a little bit more human. It's kind of the essay is a little bit like a window into the rest of the application. It just gives everything else a little bit more context. When the essays are done well and are really impactful, that's what I'm seeing, is that students are sharing great stories that we wouldn't be able to know otherwise.
All right, so we've got some helpful do's and don'ts. We'll start with the do's. So first is show your personality, stand out, be creative. As we read through, a few thousand applications each year, it is fun to read through some of those creative ones that stand out. So be unique, show some personality. Tell a story about your life. There's going to be several prompts that you can choose from. So anywhere that you can really be unique and tell us something about you that's maybe not captured in other parts of your application. Use your resources. So, proofreading, having someone else read through that is going to be really important. Responding to the prompt. So that goes back to clearly, articulating and expressing your thoughts. You want to make sure to address the prompt that you are thinking of. Use your own voice. So don't be too nervous when you're talking about yourself. Allow the most unique parts of yourself to shine through. And then as Chris mentioned before, you're going to want to make sure to address any areas of your application that you really want the admissions committee to know about. So if there's any dips in your GPA, or if you really have a lot of thoughts concerning your test scores, you're going to want to make sure to bring those points up and make sure to connect your experiences to college readiness and demonstrate in that way as well.
And then some don'ts. Don't plagiarize. Don't take someone else's story, or don't be submitting something that you did not write. That's, I think, a big key thing. Don't make careless mistakes. Blair said, have someone else proofread. It's just really, it's taking the time and not making any, simple little mistakes, either grammatically or, maybe you're writing about how St. Thomas is your dream school, but you accidentally leave in a different school's name. You know, just not making careless mistakes there. Don't focus on other people. Your essay is about you. It should share your story, not a story about someone else. Don't wait to the last minute. Similar to what Kristen was saying with the letters of recommendation, you're maybe not going to get the best letter of recommendation if you ask at the last minute. You're also probably not going to write the best essay if you wait until the last minute to submit it. And then don't use the essay as a resume. There's places on the application for you to share your experience and what you've been involved in. Use the essay as a place to give us more context to that, or share a story from something that you've been involved in, not just list all the things that you've done. And now we're going to kick it over to Joe to talk a little bit about the high school record.
All right, everybody. They left the most exciting thing for me to talk about. I want to thank them each and individually. That's so much fun. But no, it is also probably one of the most straightforward things that we're going to talk about. Obviously, your high school record is something that you've been working on here for the last basically 3 years. So beginning of your 3 years and onto your 4th year here. And you've heard this many times from multiple people. So a lot of what we're going to say is probably not very surprising. But when we look at your record, I'm just going to really kind of speak more specifically about your transcript in particular. And I kind of talk a little bit more about how I kind of go through that process and look at it. So when a high school transcript comes in, one of the very first things I'm going to look at is that grade point average that you've been working on. But specifically, I'm going to look at it not just in its cumulative form. So what have you done through your 9th, 10th, and 11th grade year? I'm going to go back and kind of look at it from, where did it start in your 9th grade year? What did you do then again in your sophomore year and then your junior year? I'm going to look and see on the bottom of that transcript, sometimes we're going to see 2 GPAs that are posted. One will be your cumulative grade point average. Another one could be a weighted GPA. Not every school offers a weighted GPA that's out there. We definitely understand that. But if that is the best GPA that's going to reflect your work here at the University of St. Thomas, that's what we're going to use. That's what we're going to look at. We can't really control how high schools make the determination if they're going to have a weighted GPA or just a cumulative GPA. We have to just kind of go with what they give us. And our philosophy is that we're going to use the best one. So that GPA is going to be really important. Once I'm done looking at those GPAs, I'm going to kind of go back and I'm going to dig a little deeper now. I'm going to actually look and see what is it that makes up that GPA. I'm going to go back to that high school year and look at, see, how did you start? Did you start off strong? Did you take good courses? Did you continue to keep going that way, or did you fade a little bit? Because it looks like you're starting to struggle as you get into those sophomore or junior level classes. I'm gonna, are you that student that maybe struggled a little bit at the very beginning part? So your freshman year is going to take you a little bit longer to get your feet underneath you. You had to get used to those new high school classes. Maybe that class was a little longer than you anticipated, and you had to figure out how to navigate that. We're going to, kind of look at that. So did you start a little slower, and did you just start to pick it up as you go and as you're taking those stronger classes? And then obviously the one that we really like to see is that a student really starts their 9th grade year really strong, and then they continue to do that as you go. You continue to take good courses, and that GPA stays nice and strong. If those first 2 kind of sound more like you, something maybe not quite as smooth as you would like, I'm going to kind of go back to what Chris, Blair, Kristen, and Brian all said earlier. You're going to have some opportunities to communicate to the committee. You're going to have letters of recommendation that you have the opportunity to utilize. So you're going to go back to your high school teachers, especially maybe in some of those areas that you struggled in a little bit. Maybe math's not your thing, but you can go back to your math teacher and they can write you a letter of recommendation that says, yeah, struggles in math, but you know what? He's going to work. He's going to put in the time and the effort. He's going to continue to look for the things that they need in order to be successful at the next level. So those are the type of things that we kind of look at, is those letters of recommendation. And those essays, really important. That is your time to really speak to the committee. That's one of the next things I tend to go to after I review that record, is to go look at that essay, look at those letters of recommendation, look for supporting information as to what I'm seeing on that record. Give me a little more insight as to what is happening through that. Obviously, there's a lot of challenges that will happen, not just in this past year, but throughout a student's experience. And those can impact how you do throughout your 9th grade and your sophomore year and your junior year. And those are things that you can talk about and ideally give us more information about. The big one that's out there right now, and as I mentioned earlier, as a parent of a senior this year, I get to experience firsthand, that is COVID-19 and all of the challenges that really brought to that senior class or this senior class and the classes below. We've really talked about that here at the University of St. Thomas. We understand that things are out of your control, and COVID-19 definitely is one of those. And you don't have the ability to choose if you're going to do pass fail or if you're going to get grades or not. Some schools did, but most students did not. And we're going to be really compassionate, is the word I want to say, about how we're going to review your record. We really understand that things challenge and things happen, right? We will understand that if we see a bunch of passing grades on your transcript, that you may not have had a control over that. I think one of the challenges that really presents out there is that there are going to be some students out there that were really banking on their junior year grades to really demonstrate to admissions committees, not just ours, but other admissions committees, that you're putting in the work and doing the work. And as Kristen pointed out earlier, if you're in that situation, you know, that writing sample, or even something under separate cover, it doesn't have to be the writing sample. It can be something just separately that you want to solely address COVID-19, or have specifically some instructors that know that you are putting in that work, and to say that, you know, give a little bit more context to that passing grade that we might see will be very valuable this year as we continue to go forward. And although we want to be as compassionate as we can, even in a pass-fail environment, a fail is a fail, right? So be mindful that we are going to be looking at that, and we will be compassionate. But if you happen to fail a grade, you fail a grade. It would have been a fail grade in any of the circumstances that were going on. And it's, you know, we can only be as compassionate as we can be. But we will definitely do that. We'll be as compassionate as we can be when we look at your transcript. So after I kind of do all of that, and when I'm talking directly to parents and to students, I like to use a phrase that says, I use this, not all GPAs are created equal. And what does that mean? On the surface, you know, we're going to have students that are going to come in, and we're going to have, you know, a ton of students have a 3.6, a 3.4, a 3.8. And how do we make a determination which one of those may be more prepared to be successful, or at least are prepared to be successful here at the University of St. Thomas? And that's when we really start to look at your strength of schedule. So when we look at that, I go back and look at, you know, your grade. I said that earlier, we look at your grade point average. Now we're going to go back and look at what makes up, very detailed, what makes up that GPA. So a lot of students are going to take the courses that are going to be traditional, your traditional courses, like your college, not your college, that's not traditional, your high school 9th grade English, sophomore grade English. And then we're going to look, and that's fine. And then some students are going to have the opportunity to take courses that are more like your honors courses, your college prep courses. We're going to look for those type of things. We're going to see if you're challenging yourself in the curriculum that you have the opportunity to be in. Some students are going to have the opportunity to take advanced placement or international baccalaureate classes. Those are type of courses, if you're not familiar with them, that are becoming more universal when they're taught at different high schools. So we're going to be able to compare you more consistently with other students that are taking those, not just in your high school, but other high schools as well, or throughout the world with an international baccalaureate program. Those courses are getting the strength to where colleges are actually considering them for college level courses. So we know the rigor is definitely being offered in those particular courses. And then some students are going to have the opportunity to take college, actual college courses. Here in the state of Minnesota, we generally call those PSEO courses, or college in the school courses. And this is where I like to say that we're kind of leaving the apples to oranges comparison, where we're trying to figure out if your high school curriculum was strong enough, and we're going more to an oranges to oranges comparison. We know, because you're taking college level courses, that it's giving us a really good idea of how you're going to be, how successful you may be in college. So when we go in, I go back and I look at each one of those, that's what I'm going to look for. We do understand, like I said earlier, that not every high school has these options available to students. We see them. Most of the people on this committee that you've seen and talked to have been here for a while. I'm old. I've seen a lot of transcripts. I've seen a lot of transcripts from a variety of different places. And we understand a lot of what's offered at those high schools, and we can make a determination of how strong your schedule is. So rest assured, we've seen a lot of things, and we can definitely make sure we evaluate your record correctly. So I do know that there might be a couple transfers out there. So got to go to my transfer hat here just a little bit, and kind of talk about specifically how we look at the transfer population a little bit. So it's a little different, obviously, because our transfer students may not always have just one transcript that we're evaluating. And I think that's one of the big differences between a high school and a college transcript. That college transcript, might have students take courses at multiple different things. And what we will do then is we will generate a cumulative GPA based on all of those different institutions that you've attended. And we'll use that when we make an admissions decision. So as an example, we might have a student that takes a microeconomics class at one institution, college A, and then they transfer and they take that again at college B. We'll use the best grade when we'll come up with your cumulative grade point average. We won't count them both. We'll just use the one, and we'll count that one. So your GPA on the college can be slightly different, not less important, but slightly different in how we put it together. And I won't go into too much detail because I know there's not a lot of transfers that might be out there, but I wanted to touch on that a little bit. So the moral of the story kind of is, from your transcript, when we're looking at your curriculum, we understand that especially your senior year, you may not have a lot of choices in the courses that you're going to take, or at least the order in which we see them. I ran into this very specifically with my daughter. She put in her courses that she wanted to take. She got some of her second choice courses. She ended up being in an English composition course, an English 12 course, and a creative writing course. My daughter does not like to write. I hope she's not in the audience, but she does not like to write. So that added a lot of stress in her world. She ended up with a culinary arts and a gym elective, courses that she wasn't hoping for her first choice, but she got them. And in your senior year, you have a lot more electives that you get a chance to fulfill. You're not doing quite as many required courses. We understand that. And we understand some courses might change along the way. There are some high school counselors that are out there saying, no, don't change. We understand that. We're compassionate. You have Blair and Chris here. If you have questions about that, you have a personal counselor, pick up that phone, drop them an email, and they'll let you know. Big thing as we go is that we're going to request your final high school transcript. So it's really important that you don't lose focus as you go through your senior year. We are going to want to make sure that the student that we admit and the academic record that you have is continuing through your senior year. So no senior slides out there. And for you students that might be taking college in the school classes or an actual college level course, I think that goes double for you. Be mindful that you're creating your official and permanent college record as a high school student. If you're taking a college level course, those grades will always appear on a transcript. So take them seriously and finish strong. I think that's what I'm going to do. Finish strong.
All right, thank you, Joe, and thank you to the rest of you as well. We, as promised, will have a little bit of time for questions here now at the end. While you're thinking of some questions, remember you can put those into the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and we will see them and be able to flag them and answer them this afternoon. We are going to show a little video while you think of some questions and give you some student perspective. Joe mentioned he's old. If he's old, then I'm old. So we wanted to give you a real experience of a St. Thomas student who's much closer to this process.
When I was in my college search process, I applied to 2 schools. I wanted something that was closer to home, but also a medium-sized campus. It's really exciting applying to college because this is that big decision that so many adults ask you about for the past couple years, and where people you might have grown up with all spread in different directions starting the new chapter of their lives. On the other hand, it's really scary because you have this greater independence and you have to make that big college decision. I narrowed down my college search the summer before my senior year. I could really see myself on both campuses, so I decided to apply early action to both schools. My advice for students who are currently in the admissions process is to be proactive. Attend as many admissions events and definitely talk to kids who are already on campus. They'll give you the most raw experience, and that's super valuable. I would also recommend creating a spreadsheet that shows which dates are required to submit certain applications, as well as how financial aid is going to work out.
All right, super helpful information from Katie. We appreciate her putting that together for us. We will take some questions now, and we did also have a few that got asked as you were registering for the event today, and you had some really great ones. So I'm going to start with a couple of those to kick off the questions for tonight. I'm going to ask this. I know we talked a little bit about, do we care if you apply with the St. Thomas app or with the common application? And if you missed it, the answer is we don't care. We'll take either. But could you, why don't Blair, if you would take this one, can you talk about, do we care if we see a St. Thomas essay question or one of the common app essay questions? A little bit of selection about how to choose what to write about and which question they might want to choose.
Yeah, good question. Okay, so as covered before, I'd say the common application is good for students who have maybe 5 or more schools that they're interested in too. So it's a broader application that you can send to multiple universities. And within the common application, you can kind of fill out their general questions. So that's one route. But say you're a student and you're interested in 1 to 3 schools, then I would do their institutional prompts. You would answer those, and that way you're going to be answering the exact questions that the university wants you to answer. And as we covered before, when we read your essay, we're going to be looking for a university fit, so that way you'll be checking off that box. So more broad, answer the Common App questions, but if you have serious interest in maybe 1 or 2 schools, definitely answer that they're personal prompts.
All right, thank you so much. Here's a good question about just St. Thomas in general, and I think this is kind of a fun one. Chris, I'll let you tackle this one. Can you talk about what makes us different? They ask about from other private colleges, but I think just in general, tell us a little bit about why St. Thomas, if you will.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite questions to answer. I get asked it all the time. I think what really makes St. Thomas different, one piece is our location. We're in the Twin Cities, so we're in this nice, like, kind of larger city area, but we're in this quiet residential area. We're tucked right between downtown St. Paul and downtown Minneapolis. So you have access to the big city areas, but then you also have this nice quiet little community. I think that's just kind of a interesting little situation to be in there. You get the best of both worlds with that. And it maybe sounds cheesy, but I just think the community here makes us really special and really unique. That was what sold me on St. Thomas. Is just every time when I was a senior in high school and I came to different admissions events, I fell in love with the people here. Everybody was so kind and helpful, from my admissions counselor, who I still remember to this day. His name is Devin. To just all the students that I met, whether it was the Tommy ambassadors who were hosting me when I came and did an overnight visit, or the people who were checking me in at the different events. Just everybody was so kind, and so that really stuck with me. But then now being in this position, in meeting with people, here on campus and getting to know, alumni, or when I'm out traveling, back when we were able to do that. Just meeting people in different cities around the country. You're like, oh, you work at St. Thomas, you went to St. Thomas. Like I graduated from there in like 1990, or I graduated from there in 2010. And just seeing how like widespread the community is has just been a really cool experience. So both on campus and off campus, that community is really special. It makes it, I think, a unique place.
That's awesome, thanks. Okay, you talked a little bit about getting to know your admissions counselor. We do have one in the chat. This is a fun one. Does it help to build a relationship with admissions? And even better, do you have a better chance of getting in? So Brian, why don't you tackle that one?
This quarantine stuff is pretty lonely. I think we're all looking for opportunities to get to know more people. Just kidding. You know, we have a supreme bias because we love, and honestly, this is not, it's not like superlatives. We love getting to know students. That's why we're in this job. We love getting to know families. But it does not make a difference in your admissions decision or your financial aid. Now I say that with a caveat. There are schools where there's a kind of a hot button thing in our industry called demonstrated interest, and they will look at how many times a student engaged and things like that. We do not. Your application is your application. Now, the one thing I would say is getting to know your admissions counselor, who is your advocate, who's just there to root for you, allows someone here to also know your narrative. So you have someone here who's queued up to root for you, and if they can help support your application in any way, they will. So you know, we don't look when we're going over applications at how many times you called. Believe me, we don't look at that. We don't look at, you know, how many times you attended an event, but we try and capture as much information about your story as we can. So we're here. You are not required to hang out with us. Some people really enjoy it. And we got a lot of time on our hands because we all can't be on campus at the same time. So don't hesitate. We get back to you right away, but they're not required. It's not going to help you when your application is being reviewed and how you've engaged with campus. Or if your admissions counselor is your best friend.
May I add something?
Yeah.
Every year, so the enrollment cycle lasts about 9 months, and every year I've worked, this is now the start of my third one, and every year there's a few families, maybe 5, that I stay in steady contact with the whole time, and you get to build really cool relationships, and when you start school, we'll probably be your best friend because you're still going to have questions, but don't be a stranger. We're there to help through the whole process.
That's awesome. All right, we have a question that came through in the Q&A, and this I think is one that everybody has on their mind. I mean, every college person will tell you, stand out, tell us something about yourself in your application. But Brian, maybe you want to tackle this one too. Like, what do we really mean by that? What are some examples of ways that students can stand out? I know we've talked a lot about that, but a little bit more would be helpful.
I guess first I'll start by saying where a student stands out. The transcript is really important. It's the most important thing we look at for academic preparedness, but it's kind of hard to stand out on a transcript. It's, you know, those are, you know, 4.0, looks like a 4.0, and those are great. They're awesome, but that doesn't say who you are. When we say stand out, it also doesn't mean you are required to do something totally crazy, like write a 2-word essay or write about something where we're all going to like hold our breath. That's not the point either. It's not, stand out does not mean shock. Sometimes that gets interpreted that way. Personalized. That's what stands out. I'd say don't overthink it too much. Talk about you. I think Chris or Blair made a point about not writing about someone else. That's really important. Write about you, something about you, what you're passionate about. That's what college education is all about. You get to choose what you love and then study it. We're not going to tell you every single class to take. You get to choose. That's what college is all about, choice. And it's time to tell us about those passions. That's what makes you stand out. You know what stands out? It doesn't matter if it's volleyball or volunteering. That's nice, V&V. I got the alliteration going there. Your passion in it is what will stand out. That's what comes through in an essay. To me, that's what stand out means. It doesn't matter what you're writing about. It may be, you know, your relationship with someone in your family, but your passion for that relationship is what will stand out in a good essay. Letters of recommendation can do the same thing. They can stand out because when you can tell when that teacher or that advisor really knows them or has been with you when things have been challenging. Those are the ones that stand out. You know, that letter of recommendation from a math teacher who says, Brian really was bad at math when he started. This was hard for him. And he grinded it out and he worked hard. And I saw him succeed because we start to go, that's what you're going to do in college. And so those are the types of things you should be looking for. Who knows me? Who can talk about my passions, my strength? Those are the things. I hope that helps a little. You don't have to shock us, and you don't have to, you know, win the national award for something to stand out. That's not what we mean. We want to know what your passions are. That sticks in our memory.
That's awesome advice. And I flipped another question to the audience for them to see because they asked specifically about the essay, but then you started talking about it. It was like you could see it or something. So that was great. One thing I picked up on is the words you use, don't overthink it. And I just want to say that again, because I do think that you can almost paralyze yourself with fear over this process and get so wrapped up in it and get so competitive with, you know, especially you see it a lot with test scores with students, or you see it a lot with like, oh, I have to apply to that school too, or I have to, you know, there's just a lot of, you can just overthink the whole process. And what's really important is finding the place where you want to spend the next 4 years, finding a place where you just feel great when you're on that campus or in a Zoom call, if that's what you have to do. But you just know, like, these are my people. This is where I feel most comfortable. This is the place that has what I'm looking for to get me to the next step of my life. So the piece of don't overthink your application process. Like, you have your transcript. You'll spend a lot of time talking about how we review that. And what you've done at this point is what you've done at this point. And, you know, keep going and have a great, strong senior year, and you'll be just fine. Tell us about yourself and, you know, personalize. You know, that's the things. I'm repeating a lot of what's said, but I really just think it's really important. That is the stuff that as admissions committee, when we review it all, it's like, gosh, I really feel like I know this person. I really feel like I have a good sense of who this student is. And so that is what you should be trying to do as you sit down to either write your essay or share information about yourself, is really just be like, I know these are real people on the other end. These are people who understand what it's like to be a teenager, because we've all been there, or have teenagers because we live with them, whatever it might be. But just be mindful of, like, don't overthink it. It'll be, you'll find the right fit for you, and that's really important. And we're here to help. That's the other big key thing. All right, I have a couple of questions, and of course, it's never a good admissions presentation if you don't talk about scholarships and financial aid. So I'm going to give this one to Joe, if you want to get us started, and if you want to pass it off. He makes a good face. Basically, tell them a little bit about what scholarship opportunities we have available. How can they apply? What's the timing of that, if you wouldn't mind?
Yeah, so at St. Thomas, we're going to have a variety of different scholarship opportunities, and I will pass it along at some point in time here to fill in the gaps, because I deal more on the transfer side. But very specifically, as students apply to the University of St. Thomas, you are actually applying to the largest scholarship opportunity that we're going to have here at the university as well. So know that by applying and getting admitted to the University of St. Thomas, you are also applying to our primary merit-based scholarship program at St. Thomas. And then we're going to have a number of different competitive scholarship opportunities that are going to come out later on. One of them is going to be like a board of trustees, and those are going to be scholarships that we're going to look a little closer at your academic credentials in your record and make sure that you qualify. So you have to qualify above and beyond just admissions to get admitted to that. We also have a couple of business program scholarships that are out there that we're going to look at. And there's a variety of different major specific like engineering and a few others that are out there that we're going to look at. So at St. Thomas, we have a number of different opportunities that students are going to be able to consider above and beyond the traditional. And then we also do some need-based assistance. So we're going to encourage you to also apply and file the free application for federal student aid. That generally will happen later in the process, generally after you're admitted, and we get to evaluate that information. So you'll get your merit opportunities kind of first to apply for those scholarships, and then we're going to follow in the back end with some need opportunity that's out there as well. And that's where it's going to be really important to be in communication with your financial aid staff here at St. Thomas. You'll have somebody in financial aid that you can talk to that will help them through that. And here's where I'm going to ask and see if I missed anything along the way, if there's some extra detail we want to add.
I just, one thing I always like to make sure that I bring up when I'm talking about scholarships is just the local scholarships, the private scholarships in your community. Those oftentimes can get overlooked. They're maybe not going to be a big flashy, like $10,000 a year scholarship. There may be some of those out there, but they're not all going to be like super large sums of money, but they might be $200, $300, $500. And so it maybe doesn't seem like it's going to be worth it to take the time to apply for those. But a lot of people think that. And so those scholarships oftentimes go unclaimed. And if you're the only person that takes the time and applies for it, there's a pretty good chance you're going to get that scholarship. And that's maybe books for a semester. That's maybe, you know, a whole assortment of different other things, like $200 is $200, $300, $300. And the way I kind of like to justify it to myself, or at least this is how I did it when I was applying to many local scholarships, was that if I took the time and say I spent 4 hours applying for scholarships and I got a total of $1,000 worth from that 4 hours, I just made $250 an hour. I don't know about all of you, but I would not mind making $250 an hour. So it can take time. It can be tedious. It can be a lot of essay writing, but it really can pay off and they can really add up, even though they may be a little smaller.
I'll add one note because I saw a question further down. You do not have to file the FAFSA for our merit scholarships. There's two big pieces: merit, which is based on your application and everything that's in there, the student, and need, which is based on the federal government and state government's determination of your family's need. Those two things are separate. And for merit aid, you just need to apply to St. Thomas. That's it. You're done. You've applied for that scholarship for the day. Need-based aid does require the FAFSA.
Thanks, Brian. And there's one question that I know we're getting to the end of our time here, but I'm going to take this one really quick. Someone asked about Raise Me. There is information on our website and in other places you'll hear about Raise Me, which is an opportunity to earn micro scholarships. So essentially you log in to the St. Thomas section of Raise Me, and you can see what you'd earn for scholarships if you got an A in a class, or if you were president of the senior class, or it adds up all of the different scholarships that you might get. And what it does is it gives you a really good understanding of what your scholarship might look like at St. Thomas. A lot of people ask, okay, well, I want my merit scholarship, plus I want my Raise Me scholarship. And what it does is it gives you a good indication of what your merit scholarship might be. It's not added to your St. Thomas funds. So we want to be clear about that. So you're earning that money just by submitting your application and by telling us all those different pieces in your application as well. But that's a good way ahead of time to get a good sense of how much we value some of the things you might be doing in high school. All right, with that, we are at 5 o'clock. So I want to take a very quick second to thank all the people on the screen, all of our panelists. It's been a pleasure being with you for the past hour, and I know you've given the families great information and the students great information. I want to remind everyone that November 1 is, of course, our very first application deadline, and that's our early action deadline. But here's the little tip: you don't have to wait until November 1st. So that, I think, is another misconception. We get a huge surge of applications right around the deadline, which, hey, I'm guilty of that too. I like deadlines, but if you are ready and have started that application, keep working on it and feel free to submit it earlier than November 1, and it gives us a chance to, we've started reviewing applications of those who've actually submitted it. So your odds are that it'll get reviewed sooner if you get it to us prior to that big push at November 1. And we do have a fun picture, I think, at the end here that I wanted to show you. Just as a reminder, we've talked a lot about you have a personal counselor. You have a person who's here to walk you through all the steps of the application. Aren't these people fun? These are my favorite people. This is the team. One of these is your personal admissions counselor. You can go out to the St. Thomas website and choose locate your counselor. And there was someone who mentioned I'm an international student. How do I find my counselor? Same way, transfer students, first year students, international students. If you're applying to the Doherty Family College, you can find your admissions counselor just by going out to our website, and they will be a great resource for you to answer your questions along the way. Finally, I want to share that we do have some current students hanging out in a Zoom waiting room right now. So if you want to talk with a current student, get some more information about students' perspective at St. Thomas, Chris just put the link into the chat, and you can just simply click on that link, log out of the webinar, and you'll be able to ask questions of some of our current St. Thomas students. Thank you again for being with us tonight. It's been a lot of fun for us, and we hope you've gotten a lot of great information, and we look forward to reviewing your application very soon. Have a great night.